What's going on, peeps? It's Wrath here, hanging out today playing some Idle Heroes. I want to thank you guys so much for coming hang out with me today. If you liked the video, don't forget, smash that thumbs up button to show your support. And if you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe as well. Alright guys, it's new event day, so obviously we're going to talk about the events and whatnot. If you don't like this kind of video, that's absolutely fine. You do not have to watch it. There's exit buttons, okay? You're not trapped. You can go. But anyways, we're going to talk about the events, just kind of really quick. I'm not going to go crazy in depth or anything this week just because, I don't know, I do it a lot. I talk about a lot of heroes a lot of times, and I kind of like people do their own research on heroes, so I don't want to like go into crazy detail and everything. But anyways, one weird thing this week is right here. This is a strange one. I've never seen this offer before, at least never registered that it was here. But down here for $30, you actually get 88 million gold and 1,888 gems. Now, I've heard somewhere that 888 is like some special number. I don't know. I can't remember what it was about, but it was something. But no regular casino chips in this offer. But I guess for people that don't really care to double complete or triple complete these events because there's not a lot of reason to do it, because the heroes on offer generally aren't that good. It's mainly for, I guess, the glory relics, but you can buy some gold, and that's not bad. Plus, you get extra gems that you normally wouldn't get, because normally $30 would get you 1,500 gems along with the 1,500 VIP, but you get a few extras. So just kind of weird. Thought I'd bring it up because it was weird, and I like to talk about weird things, I guess. I don't know. Anyways, the Wishing Well event, Wishing Fountain event, Wishing Well event. I don't know. They can't make up their mind. But it's not really an exciting week. It's kind of a slow, laid-back week. I'm okay with them though, because for newer players, this is like the easiest weekly event to complete in the game. As long as you know how to manage gems even mildly okay, this should be no issue at all every single month to do. Now, if it's your very first month in the game, you may not have had time to start stashing up your coins yet. That's understandable. You might not beat it, but for everybody else out there, if you've been playing, if it's like month 2 of you playing the game, there's really no excuse to not have 240 casino chips. It's so easy to get them. Like, you get them from everywhere. The Aspen Dungeon, you can buy them for gold. You can buy them in the market every day. You should be able to farm 240 gems a day. It's not that expensive. And these ones are really easy to complete. So anyways, you do get 8 Prophet Orbs, which is probably the biggest selling point of these events. So it definitely has some utility in that area, getting the orbs. Super Chips, there's no event for those yet. I almost wish they would make an event for Super Chips, because right now, there's a really big dead zone between this week and next week that something exciting needs to take its place, and it's not there right now. But the Big Daddy reward for 300 points this week, you get your 5 Glorious Relics, which is, in my opinion, probably the best part of the rewards, and you get a Karim. We'll talk a little bit about him, I guess. Yeah, we'll do it here in a second after we go through the Shelter Mission and stuff too. Shelter Mission, while the heroes that are on offer in Shelter Missions are never top-tier heroes, at least not in recent memory, there have been a couple of times where I think it was Amuvor a Shelter Mission reward once. I can't remember. But 99% of the time, it's B-tier units they put in Shelter Missions, because they're really easy to get. For every single faction, so in this case, this is going to be Iceblink, a Fortress Ranger. You're going to need Fortress Ranger 4 stars, and then obviously any 5-star of the Fortress faction. Wow, I've got a lot of those dudes. Yes. That's going to get you Iceblink, go straight to your bag, which is kind of handy for Heroic Miracles, but it's also going to get you 2 pieces of the orange set, the 4-star orange gear. And this is the main reason, in my opinion, to do the Shelter Mission, especially later on in the game. It's primarily to get the gear sets, because every Shelter Mission generally will give you 2 full 4-star sets to complete, which is nice. It means you're only missing 1 4-star set to be able to make your 5-star set, which you can use in the Grey Dwarf's Blessing to make your 6-star set, to make your 6-star class-specific set. And that's the main reason to do these, because the heroes that are actually on offer really aren't that great. They're not bad, per se, but they're not fodder tier. It's not like you're getting Fat Moos and stuff like that. They're just not, in-game tier. They're kind of like, they're at that nice little mid-ground. So Iceblink's pretty much your mid-ground for PvP early game. Not bad in that area. We'll look at their 10-star forms, because let's be honest, 5-star forms are pretty much unimportant. The big thing I'd be wary of when it comes to Shelter Missions is these right here. Generally speaking, they're completely not worth ever doing. That's just honest. Because Gurki and Dark Arthur are like the basic beginner dark and light unit that no one really uses. Well, I mean, you can still see some Dark Arthrals in game. They're not terrible bad. But generally speaking, the idea of why you don't want to do these is because it costs you 2 dark heroes, and now if that wasn't enough, it also costs you 2,000 gems to get that. The issue is the hard thing about light and dark heroes is getting the fodder to make them 10-star. That's the big challenge in it because it's not easy to do. So the fact that you're trading pretty much you're just throwing away a 5-star dark hero to get one copy of this hero doesn't really work out well. It makes it longer. It takes longer to make your 10-star hero this way. Plus, it also costs you gems. These right here are probably, I don't know, they're the worst offers in the game almost. Like, you should never go for this. There's very few situations I'd ever even entertain the idea. If they're going to make it this obscenely expensive, they need to make these heroes god tier. You know, make them actually worth that investment. Because right now, neither of those heroes are worth that cost. I wouldn't mess with it ever. Generally speaking, you'll be able to get your 2 light and 2 dark heroes for heroic miracles without ever touching the shelter missions. And that's, I never do anything in the light and dark here. Unless that was like an Amuvor or a Dasmog, then maybe, you know, if this is something like a Faithblade or a Belrain, then that cost becomes a little bit more, okay, they're really elite heroes, they're hard to get, but these are just basic, everyone can get their hands on them, they're not super special light and dark heroes, so, not good. Not good stuff. We'll talk about the heroes real quick. I'm not going to go crazy in detail on them, just kind of brush over them real fast like. We've got Walter here. Everyone was recently buffed in that last change, got a little more HP, so he's not quite as squishy anymore. Look at that. Walter. Walter used to be, way back in the day, he was a PvE hero. He was great for boss damage, really solid at it, and he got changed a little bit, so he's slightly less good at boss damage, and then he got changed again to be pretty much really pretty bad at boss damage, but he did gain some crowd control for PvP. So early to mid game, Walter's not bad in PvP. He can stun lock people, it can be annoying, and he's got some use in that area. But when you get to the end game, he's just not going to hold up very well. It doesn't work out. But if you're wanting someone for early to mid game PvP that will also do decently well in PvE, because he will, he's not terrible against bosses, he's just not super great at it either. He's kind of like in a weird mid ground. Walter's not a bad choice. He's pretty easy to get your hands on, and he's got that reduced damage at 10-star, which is pretty nice for keeping him alive in harder fights, as long as he gets his active skill off, of course. His poison dots aren't nearly as good as they used to be, so but he did trade that for some more stuns, so when it comes to Tower of Oblivion, he kind of got a buff there. In the Aspen dungeon, because they nerfed him in the Aspen, he doesn't have a 100% stun chance there anymore. Kind of a mid-ground, I guess. But either way, Walter's not a bad mid-tier unit that kind of hybridizes between PvE and PvP. He's not super hard to build, pretty easy to get your hands on, so not a terrible build. But again, anything that's on offer in Shelter Mission, you can pretty much say it's not going to be in-game viable. That's usually the case with it. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? So anyways, boom, Fortress. Who is our Fortress offering? I can't remember, just looking at the top of my head. Ice Blink, that's what it was. Yes, it was Ice Blink. Back in the day, Ice Blink was like the meta. You had to have Ice Blink. But that changed a long time ago. He's got a nice little HP buff now, so he's a little bit more tanky. The big thing you like about Ice Blink is he's pretty decent with crowd control. He freezes people, which isn't bad, but he also gains extra damage to frozen foes. Again, that's also not bad. And when you tank with him early game to mid game, he does get a little bit of attack boost while nerfing the enemy's attacks that hit him. So he's kind of like a little bit of a support build in there too, which again, that's not a bad thing. When it comes to Tower of Oblivion, in PvP, that's pretty solid. You want crowd control, and for early to mid game, it's going to work just fine. However, when you move toward the end game, he's really, really slow, so his PvP status just kind of falls to crap, and no one uses him anymore because he's just really easy to kill. Early to mid game, nice PvP, nice tower unit. Outside of those two areas, though, he will suck at everything. He is not a boss damage unit at all. He is not an Aspen-based unit at all. He is strictly PvP / Tower of Oblivion, and like I said, he's only going to be a mid-tier unit there. He's not going to take you all the way to the end game, so primarily people use him as food now. That's kind of how it goes. Anything that I'm talking about right now is mostly used as food in most cases. We have 2 offerings from Abyss this week. One from the casino. That's going to be Karim, or the Wishing Well, whatever you want to call it. He got a little bit of a buff, not a huge one. He's not super tanky in the HP department. He got a little bit of an HP buff. But Karim is a really slow starting unit. From 5-star all the way up till 9-star, he's just really lackluster. He's not that great. However, once you get him to 10-star and he starts getting that healing kicked in on his active skill, plus getting that extra crit damage, he starts to be a little bit more viable. His main use, I would say, is going to be PvE roles for the mid-game, the true mid-game. He can work in PvP early on, but with no ability to resist crowd control, he does get kind of stun-locked and wrecked all the way to death. But For the Aspen Dungeon and stuff like that, he does have a decent amount of healing, which can keep himself alive, which is handy. E3 Karim can definitely make it to Hell mode. I've done it before. It's not easy. You're going to have some really good artifacts on him and some really good wave luck, but it can be done. With that said, though, boss damage, he's all right at boss damage. Sometimes he puts out decent damage, and sometimes he puts out very little damage. When it comes to PvP, though, that's where this kind of kicks in. If he's like your first E3 hero, you'll be able to wreck a decent amount of units with him because he's going to build a huge amount of attack up while he kills the weak enemy heroes. And then when it's just that 1v1 versus your big hero versus their big hero, your Karim's going to have a huge amount of attack, so he's healing for a massive amount of health, and he's dealing pretty decent damage. Solid early to mid game hero. Again, when it comes to the late game, PvP, he gets wrecked on like no one's business in the late game. He just gets crowd controlled to death and then wrecked. And it comes to boss damage, he doesn't do enough boss damage to be an in-game boss unit. Like he doesn't have enough utility. So he just, no, not there. Aspen Dungeon, of course, like I said, you get to Hell mode with him, but you're not going to make it far into Hell with him. He's going to get wrecked pretty early on by stun units, damage units, pretty much any units. He's going to get wrecked in Hell mode. So he's not bad early to mid game, like all these offerings, but he does have some use in the mainly PvE area, I would say, early on. We also got Dantalion on offer. He got buffed again with a lot more HP, so he'll be even, I would say, more useful now than he was back when I had him. But a fun unit to build, not gonna lie. I really enjoyed building my Dantalion. I'd like to build him again to E3 just because I enjoyed him. But the big thing to take away from Dantalion is he's tanky. He's not only tanky, he does really good damage versus other warriors, and that's kind of Dantalion's big shining point. When you're fighting warriors like King Bartons and things like that, Dantalion does a lot of damage, at least to them. But to other units like Rangers and anything else that's not a warrior, his damage is pretty mediocre, but he's still pretty tanky no matter where you put him. He has a nice amount of reduced damage that he gains for 6 rounds, so he gets 24% reduced damage for free. You throw a big reduced damage artifact on him, he becomes really tanky. With this huge amount of health he has now, this last pass is going to be even more effective than it used to be. He heals himself by a % of missing HP when he takes damage, so that can be really annoying, and it's actually really fun to use and troll people that don't have really nukey units, because he can just sit there and eat damage and not die. However, with the mass spam of Valkyries, that is only going to get worse now that she got buffed, which was, let's just say it, that was stupid. I don't know why the devs decided to buff Valkyrie. Whatever, they do their own thing. But since everyone builds her, he's not really good in PvP. He gets kind of wrecked on. Against other units in PvP, though, like King Bartons, he's not bad. King Barton usually can't kill Dantalion, and Dantalion has a better than good chance of killing the King Barton because of all the extra warrior damage he does. He's not bad there early to mid game. Nice little Aspen hero early on, too, because he has that nice little built-in sustain early on, even when he's not E3. So that's kind of handy to help keep him alive. But when it comes to the actual heavy damage over time nodes and things like that, he doesn't hang very well. Damage over time eats him alive. So, like I said, early to mid-game unit, in my opinion, a lot of fun to build, but he's not going to take you to the end game, and he's not really viable in in-game teams right now, but, you know, like I said, none of the heroes that are on offer this week are. This is kind of the week that we deal with Casino Week, is it's kind of a mid-tier week. That's almost what it should be named. It's midweek. But anyways, in Forest, we've got Rosa. Rosa's just a support unit. That's all he does. He doesn't do any kind of damage really at all. He's just support, and he's primarily support for PvE. He does reduce armor, which is nice. It's never a bad thing. He boosts your team's attack, reduces enemy attack, and when he falls below half health, he boosts your team's reduced damage, which can be handy. However, most people don't run Rosa because he doesn't dual purpose very well. If you take Rosa into PvP, generally it doesn't end well for you. He's not a very PvP focused hero. So a lot of people swap this guy out for Cruz because they get the heals from Cruz's basic attack. They also get the stun utility from Cruz's basic attack. But if you run Cruz in PvE, you still get that weakness mark that boosts your damage. So most people don't run Rosa just because he's not very versatile. And that's really all he does is support for boss fights. That's literally his only job. He doesn't work in the Aspen Dungeon. I guess he kind of works in the tower, but not super great. Cruz would work better there as well. So I would say he's almost a little less than mid-tier, just because, for those reasons. He does, like I said, he's not a terrible unit. When it comes to boss fighting, that reduced damage perk can be really handy, especially against harder guild bosses. It can save your butt a little bit, get you to do some more damage. But overall, he's just kind of meh, like everything else this week. Everything else this week is also meh, so why wouldn't Rosa be? Then the light and dark heroes, I mean, I guess we can touch on them a little bit. Dark Arthidol, just without a doubt, is more useful than Gurki. There's no arguing that. She's pretty fast, and her energy drain is probably the most annoying thing about her. When she gets hit, she has a chance to reduce enemy energy. When she drops her active skill, she can also steal energy, and that can be really annoying. It can offset the tempo of your team, because if you're expecting to get a skill cast and then Dark Arthidol steals your energy, it can kind of bone you a little bit. So you know what I'm saying? It's not super fun to mess with that. All in for PvP and Tower of Oblivion. She's not an Aspen hero, absolutely not a boss fighting hero. But in GVE teams anymore, you still don't see Dark Arthidol, mainly because you got Aspen, Amuvor, and Mim, or even Dasmog would probably work better in most cases. You don't see a lot of them in the end game just because, I mean, you still see some, not going to say you don't. She is a solid crowd control unit, better than most of your regular faction crowd control units are because of that energy drain, really nasty. But yeah, AoE Petrify, not bad. The energy drain, annoying. But still not a top tier unit, still not worth 2,000 gems and then 2 extra 5-star dark units to get one. It's just a bad deal in my opinion. And same with Gurki. Gurki's probably the least used hero in the game, I would say. Because, I mean, he looks cool. That's like Gurki's one and only saving grace, is he does look pretty cool. Outside of that, he's pretty much butthole. He's not really useful anywhere as a full-on hero. In the Aspen dungeon, he'd probably work okay due to the fact he has a decent amount of healing. It's not terrible. But he's just not that great. For as hard as it is to build light units, it's just not worth investing in one that's such a low-tier hero. He's not a great healer. He's not a great damage dealer. So when it comes to boss fights and such like that, he just isn't that good. And that's why you don't see a lot of him. He's just not that great. Very easy to get your hands on for a light hero, though. His copies aren't hard to get. I mean, you can get them everywhere. It's just when you're going to build a light hero, I mean, if you want a healer, Michelle probably heals better than Gurki does, to be honest. Plus, she has more utility with the crowd control. She's fast. Gurki's so freaking slow that he always goes last, which means most of the time he's crowd controlled or dead before he gets to do anything in PvP. And in PvE, he doesn't do enough boss damage to be worth a spot on your team. Just kind of a thing. So, Michelle's better, Faithblade's better, Belrain's better. Pretty much everybody's better than old Gurkinator. So definitely not worth the 2 light heroes and 2,000 gems to get a copy of that guy. When you could scroll over here, you could click on that, you could scroll over, and you could snag a Gurki here. And if that wasn't enough for you, you could go to your Brave Trial, go in your Brave Trial shop, and you could buy a Gurki there. He's everywhere. He's not super rare. That rhymed. And he's not worth it. He's not worth the investment. So anyways, that's the heroes that are on offer this week. Pretty slow week. Like I said, it's not going to be super exciting. Don't expect huge team progress because it's not even possible this week. There's no really potential for big team progress. But the good thing about this week is it is one of the easiest events in the game to complete for free-to-play players. Of course, I guess item exchange is equally easy because you literally have to do nothing but log in and click collect, which, yay, can't wait for that next week. Gonna be so fun. Ugh. I'm not looking forward to next week at all. But anyways, if you're a new player, pretty free to play, it's 240 gems a day, easy to get your hands on. It's not difficult. Let's go ahead and snag these out. I'm going to need them. Snag those out. We might as well snag these out too. But it's easy enough to get your hands on 240 gems a day. I mean, you get 100 every day just for watching ads. So, I mean, come on now. You get it. It's not that hard to get 240 gems per day. And even that, you don't even have to. That's the thing, is you don't even have to do that because the Aspen Dungeon, when it runs, you have an opportunity to buy them for gold. You should always have more than enough. I mean, I've got nearly 400 casino chips, and I don't go out of my way to buy them. Like, I'm not buying them like, oh my god, I gotta have them. I buy the 8 every day in the shop because I can afford it. But like I said, I'm well over what's required for the event. You only need 240 chips, right? 260? I don't know. I can't remember. No, 240. 240 casino chips or wishing well coins, whatever the crap they're called. That's all you need for the event. It's super easy to get them. I've got 150 extra. It's just, they pop up everywhere. So it's super easy event to complete. It's not a bad deal. We're almost at 100 super coins. Almost there. Not that I really need anything from the superstore anymore. I mean, Queen, really? That's not super. Horus. Ooh, I actually do kind of need a Horus. We might save that. We might save that there. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how it all turns out. But anyways, there's the event. There's the heroes. Where's my mouse? There it is. Found it. I got lost for a second. But there it is. That's the event. That's the heroes talked about. Not really super in detail like usual because, I don't know, I don't really feel like talking about them in detail. I just don't. They're all mid-tier heroes. I'm not super excited about them. But anyways, that is me for today, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. If you liked the video, please make sure, smash that thumbs up button and show your support. If you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe as well and tell your friends about it, because that definitely helps me out a lot. And I will see you guys in the next one.